All right, everybody, it's the top of the hour, so I'll get us started. My name is Anna Hansen, and I am really excited to introduce you to my co-presenter here, Joe Wakeman. He's the technology director over at Nevada School there in Iowa, and he's going to kind of talk us through a little bit of what he's doing with his Appstream deployment and even give us a little demo of his environment. If you guys have any questions at all, you can just pop them into the chat, or there's a Q&A button, and I'll keep an eye on those and let Joe know when they're coming through. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Joe. Thank you.
All right, hey everybody. So what we're going to look at today is Appstream, and what the solution does is it allows you to run any Windows application basically from a browser on whatever platform it is. So whether it's a Mac, a Chromebook, whatever it may be, the application can run, and it's actually running on some servers out in the cloud. But it enables you to run applications anywhere. It allows you to no longer rely on labs. And it allows for a lot of flexibility with applications and how they're delivered. So we'll jump right into the demo, and I'll kind of show you how it works here quickly a little bit. We have our system set up to authenticate with Google credentials. So kids are able to log in right with their Google credentials. So when they go to a Google page, they can just click the waffle menu, scroll down, and go to AWS Appstream, and it brings them right to an application list of all the applications that they've got available to them. So today we're going to demo Autodesk Inventor. So you would just click that application. And the first time you launch that application, it can take a couple of minutes to launch. Oh, I need to log back in here. Give me 1 second. I tried to do this ahead of time to make it a little more efficient. All right, so let's go to Autodesk Inventor. So the first time you launch an application, it can take up to 2 minutes to launch that application. That's really a cost savings measure on AWS's side, that they don't always have the machines there instantly readily available. So you can save quite a bit of money that way long term. But the first time they launch an application, it can take up to 2 minutes. Realistically, it's about a minute and a half. What we like to do is if the students are going to be using an application during their class time, the teacher will just tell kids, hey, kids, right away when the class starts, hey, kids, let's go ahead and start Inventor today. Everybody launches Inventor, and then the teacher proceeds to do attendance and kind of housekeeping sort of stuff. So that way, when the teacher's ready to go, the application's already launched. But now for the purposes of our webinar, it's like watching paint dry, even though it's realistically not that slow.
How many students do you have in, Joe, right now that are using?
Yep, great question. So right now we've got the solutions available to all of our kids, grades 5 through 12. We've got a handful of classes that use it pretty consistently. So our Project Lead the Way courses, they're using it pretty consistently for things like Inventor, Robot C, things like that. We also have a graphic design class at the high school that uses Photoshop pretty consistently. So those are our kind of two main groups. Between those two groups of kids, there's probably about 100 kids, give or take, that use it in somewhat frequency. Now, one thing I did mention, so because we have this integrated with Google for single sign-on, it also integrates with students' Google Drives. So they can save files right to their Google Drive. They can share files right through Google Drive. They can access shared drives or shared files right through the Windows applications with very little work on the student side. So this is what Inventor looks like. Now I'm going to warn you, I'm not a CAD designer, so my experience here is pretty simple as far as making a project in Inventor, but we'll kind of put it through its paces just to show you what it looks like. So if any of you have noticed, I'm actually running this on a Mac right now. So here I'm running a native Windows application just from my Chrome browser on a Mac. So again, this is platform independent, whether it's on a Chromebook, which all of our students are doing this through a Chromebook. So the experience would be identical. Settings and those sort of things are persistent. So if I get my workspace here in Inventor set up how I like it, when I go to connect up tomorrow, or if I were to connect up through a different device, all that stuff would be there as well. So I'm going to pick a plane. I'm going to build a rectangle. I'm going to extrude my rectangle. And let's put a hole in our rectangle. So there you can see I'm interacting with the software just as if I were in front of a high-powered desktop. I can interact with my model. I can spin it around, do all sorts of stuff with it. But it's pretty simple. To kind of show you what the Google Drive integration looks like, if I just do a file save as, up here in my file selector, if I go to this PC, so you'll see I don't have Google Drive listed here. So the first time that the kids sign on, they would need to tie Appstream with their Google Drive account. So if I click the little file icon up here, I can add storage, Google Drive. Just sign in here with my account. Now, the kids will only need to do this one time. So once they've done this one time, it's going to be persistent through every other time they log in. So now, if I do a file save as, I get a Google Drive. So since this is the first time I'm connecting, it's taking a couple of seconds to do all the stuff in the background, but you double click your Google Drive and you can save right to your Google Drive or open files right to your Google Drive or share drives it's got integration with as well. So pretty slick as far as file management goes as well. But really that in a nutshell is what the Appstream experience is like. Do we have any questions as far as that experience goes before we kind of move on to the reporting piece? Anna, is there anything else you'd like to share as well?
Yeah, we had just a couple of things. They were asking about the licensing for Autodesk and how you're handling the licensing. And I can take that if you want to take a break and take a drink.
No, yeah,
so
you go for it.
So we actually have a completely managed solution. So what we'll do is we'll actually build you out a licensing server, and then it authenticates through the licensing server, and you're good to go. It's pretty straightforward. As for Adobe, the licensing just depends on the licensing that you have. Do you want to dig into that a little bit more, Joe? But most
so like the Adobe licensing, because there's no like an internal license server might have been with Autodesk, for example. With Adobe, we've just bought the we've got kind of the site license for that, where we've got 500 licenses. So I just create the licenses on the back end on Adobe site, just as if I would if we had an on-site computer lab here. The first time kids launch an Adobe application on Appstream, it asks them to sign in. Because we've got that integrated with Google as well, they just sign in with their school Gmail account. It knows they've got a license tied to them because I did that beforehand, and it's licensed. Again, just as if you had an on-site computer lab or specialty machines for this purpose.
Somebody had asked, are these apps added in the Android app through the admin console?
Yep. So this actually, it's not an app that the kids download at all. It's just it's a Google integration or a website that you would go to if you're not leveraging Google for your back end. It'd be a SAML app, would be the Google term. So you would, Bytespeed had set that up, work with you to set that up on the back end. So then it's just a icon the kids would click, and it's just a web page within the browser, no app or anything necessary.
We do most of the back end stuff for you guys. So you don't have to worry too much. You got to provide your users and license information for us to build the licensing server, and then we'll put all that stuff together. Joe, somebody was asking, what are the specs of the Chromebooks your students are using?
Yep, so that's a great question. So the Chromebooks at our middle school and high school are Lenovo 500Es, kind of mid-range, 4 gig RAM. I'm not sure what processors in them, but nothing nothing high powered. I mean, this solution will run on your cell phone. It requires basically nothing on the client end as far as resources, because you got to remember everything's running in the cloud. So all your Chromebook or iPad or phone or whatever's concerned, it's just loading a web page. So local resources, it doesn't matter. It's not like you need a little beefier Chromebook or anything to run this stuff on.
One of the questions is, do you ever have your teachers tell you that it is not responsive enough? And if so, do you upgrade your Appstream hardware at a higher cost to meet the needs? I'll take that one. Well, you could answer as well, but we build the image on an extra large. So the solution we're providing is already on an extra large image. So we've done a lot of vetting there. I have talked to a few schools that have had issues that were probably using underpowered images just to see if they could get it to work. But usually that's the complaint, and we haven't had any issues with our deployments because we're building on a pretty robust image. Have you heard anything, Joe, really from your teachers?
No, not, and it's kind of the same thing for us, Anna. The images are on that higher tier, so it's not the super cheap image that, yeah, if you're doing some 3D stuff, it could be potentially challenging or laggy or things like that. Because it's on that beefier image with a GPU enabled card on the image itself. There have been no issues there. Everybody's been pleasantly surprised as far as how it runs and how responsive it is, and oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So.
All right, the next question is, does Appstream require video licenses for the server?
I'm not sure. Not sure I get that one as far as video licenses. As far as licensing is concerned, the Windows license and CALs and stuff, that's all built into the cost. Software licenses, that'd be on your end for what you would get anyways, but no other additional licenses you need on top of that.
Another one is, I remember NVIDIA was moving into that environment to charge for graphics intensive virtual hardware. So, that makes sense. That's probably.
Yep. So that would be for, like, if you've got the grid card in your own host on site doing virtualization. Yeah, they kind of changed their licensing there, but that doesn't apply here.
No, not at all. Somebody put, I may have missed this earlier, but you guys work with the EdLaw 2D rules in New York. I am not familiar with what that is. I'll have to look it up. This one is one I'll answer. Is the district billed by access time, or is it unlimited access? And can students stay signed in and accidentally burn the time? So the way that we do it is we sell it out in hours. Appstream, you can go buy Appstream direct and just not go with the managed solution that Bytespeed has. And then you put your credit card in and you just pay for what you go. You build it out and pay for what you go, and you manage your own environments. What we do is we pre-bundle hours so that you can buy in advance what you need and put it all on a purchase order. And then we manage the environment. So we'll spin up all the applications you need, and then we'll help optimize the environment so that you're not going through and using a ton of hours like that. So you can set your time limits on what your students are, how long they're allowed to be logged in. And then you set your idle hour usage and stuff, so things are spun up and ready to go. Do you want to talk about how yours is set up at all, Joe?
Yep, that's exactly how ours is set up, with limits and things in that nature to kind of keep some of that overrun to a minimum. As well as, we'll talk about it here in a second, there's Bytespeed's also got a reporting dashboard that they've built that lets you know what are some of our most used applications, what are some of our most used users. So that way you can kind of keep an eye on how your hours are being consumed as well. So you can see if you've got the solution available after hours, we've got a handful of kids that are really burning through hours after hours, or is there anything like that?
I'm going to share my.
And has got that pulled up.
Yeah, so as you guys use, it gives you pretty good analytics into how you're using your application. So this dashboard is just something we built custom for our EDU users. So you can understand the applications by unique users, and you can see what classes are really leveraging the tools. We all have to justify the investments that we're making in technology, and this really, I feel like, helps make it easy for you to understand what the usage is like and how the adoption has been. Like I said, we sell in packages of hours, so you can see how many hours, the start date and the end date. So you can kind of keep track of where you're at, how many hours is left. This is just a screenshot. I apologize for the blacked out, but privacy laws, so we're trying to hide things there. But you can see how many hours until it expires, the number of unique users. And then this here kind of gives you an idea on how many hour sessions we have spun up versus how many are actually being used. So it
And
kind of helps you. Go ahead.
any of these data points you can click on and drill down in to find more information about. So if you're trying to understand your usage once you get into the situation and tweak things, or as you go to buy your next block of hours or anything like that, you can really make really informed decisions on how you're using it and where that money is going.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really, really cool tool. I'll go back here to the chat. Are you just using Appstream for graphics heavy software or Microsoft as well?
So we are using Appstream for basically any application that can't run natively on our students' Chromebook. So we've got the high-end stuff like Project Lead, the way we've got the Adobe stuff. In the past, we've used it for Internet Explorer. So in situations where we needed a browser that could run Java for some like FET simulations from the University of Colorado, we needed something that would run Java for some of those simulations. So we've turned kids loose to use Internet Explorer there. We're doing some Office certification classes coming up next year. We took kind of a break on that for a few years. We're going to do that coming up next year that we're going to do as well. So really the solution exists for any software that doesn't run natively on a Chromebook that would need a lab or some specialty hardware for that. Now I don't need to buy that specialty hardware or maintain a lab or anything. We can just run it on this solution.
Our solution is set up with Adobe Autodesk, Project Lead the Way applications, and then Microsoft Office. And I will tell you that we were surprised that we were adding Microsoft Office in, but like Joe had just referenced, the certifications, it doesn't have all of the different certification and options that you need. So that is why we ended up adding it. It was kind of a surprise that we would need it, but it gets a lot of use. Just kind of looking through here. How shocking is the monthly price? Okay, if anybody wants to jump on a call, I can kind of run through a calculator with you and help you figure out roughly what your usage is going to be. We've got a lot of schools in now, and I can tell you, having done this, it seems like our usage is always a little bit less than what you think. What you only actually get charged when you use it, charged hours when you're using the application. So you buy your bucket of hours and you're trying to estimate how many you're going to need. And after a year or two, it probably gets pretty easy. You know what your classes are and you can start to estimate. But we calculate based on the hours that are in class, and it depends on your teacher too. So if your teacher isn't logging into the application and using it all the time, you're not going to have that usage happening. If they don't assign a lot of homework, you're not going to have very much for after hours. So you really kind of got to understand how your teachers teach and what that's going to look like. So at first, it's a little bit of a guessing game and trying to figure out what you're going to need. But it's pretty reasonable. I can get anybody a pricing estimate pretty easily. And if anybody wants to do a demo, we can spin something up so they can try it and see what it looks like too.
And I think, Sean, that kind of goes to your question as well, as how many hours would a district of 400 high school kids potentially run? It really, it depends on how many periods a day you're offering classes that would need the solution. How many minutes or hours during the day do those classes run? It's pretty variable. There's not one super cut and dry number. So that's why Bytespeed's got a calculator to help you kind of get a gut check for what numbers you might need. And kind of like Anna said, more often than not, those will be very conservative. So you would have padding and not really run over. And then, the next go around, you kind of use that data to make some more informed decisions that, okay, based on our usage, maybe we can pare down the numbers or kind of understand what your true usage is anyways.
Part of the value that we're providing as an organization too is that we're going to optimize your environment so there's not a lot of waste. So we're going to help you figure out how to time out. We're going to help you figure out how to stack usage so that you don't end up with kids just logged in and wasting hours and not logging out. We really try to optimize it so that you stretch your hours as long as you possibly can and your investment goes a long ways. I know there are a lot of higher ed adoptions with Appstream. I can get some specific reference if anybody is looking for something there too. And actually we have a partner that helped us build out the dashboard and put this all together. That's amazing. So they do some custom consulting if it's a big deployment and you're looking for something very unique to a multi-campus system. So definitely let me know if I can help there. Is there a built-in way for students to request access from home when they need to complete a project, basically to allow the teacher to control the usage? Basically, you would end up spinning, you can lock down, you can basically do whatever you want.
Yep. So realistically, you set your parameters as far as when the solution is available. So like what we do is we have the solution available to a certain number of kids after hours, and that was kind of a educated decision based on how many kids would need access to that, because realistically it's not all 100 plus kids that are going to need access to that. In our use case, it's 5 to 10, so we leave 5 to 10 instances run after hours until about 10 at night, and then we shut it down so nobody can connect from 10 till about 6, just to kind of help cost control. But again, that's something that Bytespeed will work with you to kind of determine what your needs are as far as availability and access and that sort of thing.
That made me pause for a minute, just because we do have at least one school I know that doesn't do the after hours. They just use it during school, and they don't. But I would encourage all of you guys to really think hard about that. It's such a unique opportunity to be able to provide students the ability to log in from wherever they're at, whether they're at home at night and they want to catch up on homework. Not every kid works at the same pace. And so you're going to get better quality work from kids if they have the ability to work on projects after hours and they don't have somebody pulling the back of their hair or doing whatever kids are doing in the middle of class. It really gives the kids an opportunity to focus on projects and do things uniquely. If they're sick and they can't come to school, if who knows what happens and they can't come to school.
It's been a huge draw for us for our Project Lead the Way kids, because before you had to take Project Lead the Way and you were limited to doing it in the Project Lead the Way lab during those 42 minutes. So if you actually, you had some invested kids who really wanted to roll, well, at 9:10 when the bell rang, they were done and you couldn't get in the lab the rest of the day. So by us having availability after hours for them to connect if they wanted, it's allowed a lot of those kids to really flourish and take off. And like I said, it's not our after hours. And I think Anna will kind of echo that most schools, their after hours usage doesn't look anything like what it does during the day. So if it's a limited amount for homework and kids who need a little more help or want to take off and fly, it's there for.
It's a handful of kids that you're going to see that are really going to take advantage of that opportunity. But it's the same kid I was talking to another one of our schools where they'd have kids sitting in the lab until 4:30, 5 o'clock at night, and they could be at home. And how many kids would have taken that opportunity if they weren't in a sport or if they didn't have a conflict that stopped them from being able to do that? And this really gives the kids the opportunity to do that. And like Joe just mentioned, it's not a huge number. Every kid that's in the program is not going to log in from home and put in extra hours making sure their project's perfect, but some will. And it could be the difference between a C and an A, or an F and C.
And if for the couple of bucks a month that's going to cost in hours, that's totally worth it. But again, it's up to you, your district, and what you want to do. So.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll share one more thing. We have a website that has a bunch of information if you guys want to look at it. I'll share that. And it's got a lot of information on it. There is here we go. Of course, I moved it. There we go. So got some information on the solution altogether. You can request a quote really quick and easy from here. Kind of talks about what we do with our solution and how it works and how we bundle the hours. And I've tried to make it simple and easy. You've got your screenshot here of the dashboard that shows what the schools that work in our solution get access to. You can request a free consult. We'll just jump on a call. Our Bytespeed's CTO does these. He's awesome, very technical. He can talk you through what the security stuff looks like and how we manage that piece. And then we do have an hours calculator here. If you guys do go in and click through the hours, keep in mind it's only when it's being used. So you got to kind of have a little bit of a grain of salt. I don't think I've had very many people actually use it as much as what the hours say they're going to. And then you've got this request a quote is down here at the bottom. You kind of fill in the applications that you want and it'll help you figure out what you need to do. And that's just bytespeed.com/product/class. Or if you want to email me, I can drop my email into the chat here too. Any more questions or anything? You guys have been pretty easy. Our intention here was just to do a quick half hour and give everybody an idea of what the options were and what it looks like. And if anybody wants to talk about an individual environment, if there's an application on that you don't see on the list that you want on the list, we're definitely open to adding more applications in. If it's an application we think a lot of other schools will use, then we might add it into the main image that we're doing. If not, we'll just figure out something on the side for you guys. Somebody asked Joe, they missed it. They said, how many students do you have running Appstream?
Yep. So really the solution's available to all of our kids 5 through 12. So that's a little over 1,000 kids. Realistically, our number is about 100 kids that use it consistently day in and day out for like our Project Lead the Ways, our graphics design courses and those sort of things.
And we will send out a copy of the recording. So that'll get sent out. If you registered, you'll get a copy of the recording. And then we have a landing page on our website, just bytespeed.com/webinars. And we host all of our previous webinar recordings on there. So you'll also be able to find it there. And that should be updated here in the next day or two. Thank you, Joe. It's always a pleasure to jump on one of these with you. If anybody has any other questions before we sign off. Do the hours expire? Yeah, they do last 1 year. So we try to match you as close as you can and get you set up for a year. Anything else? You can run AutoCAD. AutoCAD's probably one of our most commonly used. Between AutoCAD and Adobe are the two biggest requests that we get. I would encourage anybody to just do the quick consult call to talk about like how your licensing is with AutoCAD and Adobe, and just make sure that we can get everything spun up for you. It's pretty straightforward and painless. If anybody does want to move forward and get going, we've had people up and running in less than a week. So it's pretty much how quickly can you get us your information for authentication. And we can authenticate through Google and also through Azure if anybody has a Windows environment. Well, thank you guys. And thank you again, Joe.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good rest of the day.